My name is Matthew Bristow. I'm head of production for 3D creation, 3D stereo conversion, however you want to call it, Prime Focus Film London. Normally on these kind of events, I like to kind of blow your minds with some eye-popping 3D, but unfortunately we don't have the facilities to show 3D, so I'm going to blow you away with some eye-popping PowerPoint, if that's going to work for you. It is. So anyway, I'm Matthew Bristow, Prime Focus. So in the last 12 months, myself, also introduce my colleague here, Raj Roy. He's our senior stereoscopic supervisor and technical guru. But over the last 12 months, we've overseen the stereo conversions for Shrek, Resident Evil 4, Chronicles of Narnia, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, and currently going through the pipe Part 2. So we're uniquely placed to truly understand, not only how this process of creating stereo from mono works, but also the immense challenges that are involved in doing that and how far it has come in the last 12 months. And in that, it really has come a long way in what is just 12 months. So 12 months ago, Avatar hit our screens, Clash of the Titans hit our screens, and unarguably, these are the two most significant 3D films so far. The spawn of these films reached critical mass this month. This month is the first time that 3D openings are actually outnumbering wide-release 2D opening movies at the box office. And interestingly as well, it's conversion and animated films that really are dominating, not so much the natively captured. So, and then beyond this summer, we've got Thor coming out, or Thor just released, but obviously as I mentioned earlier on, beyond this summer we've got the looming 3D release of Phantom Menace. It's slated to thrill sci-fi fans and no doubt maybe enrage one or two Star Wars purists, but that'll be hitting the screens next February. So, while some moviegoers, remain sceptical about the technology, the movie studios are very much entranced by the thought of must-see theatre experiences, which is why the tickets tend to come at a premium price as well. So they've embraced 3D as a kind of cinematic saviour. It is a new age, it is a new dawn, it is new technology. But equally, one of the biggest problems that movie companies face is piracy. And as yet, 3D cannot be pirated. You can't, pirate the 2i technology to get it out there. So movies once again become, the place to go to. It's bringing people back into the cinemas. But with this new technology in 3D, it puts filmmakers in a tough spot. As they have to kind of struggle to reinvent visual storytelling, whilst learning to master fast-changing technologies. And these technologies are, morphing practically by the minute. Going back to the start, saying in just 12 months, we've seen a huge leap in technology, not just in camera technology, but also conversion technology and all the things that support that. Michael Bay, recently said that, right now it feels like the Wild West. And Michael Bay is someone who, a year ago famously dissed 3D. And he's now embracing the technology for his upcoming third Transformers film, a chunk of which we're currently converting at Prime Focus as well. And the reason why what we've got there is creating 3D from 2D. And we talk about conversion, but I've always felt that conversion, is perhaps the wrong term. We don't actually convert anything. What we do is we do create stereo from mono. We do create 3D from 2D. And we will come into that in a little bit more detail later, and my colleague Raj will look to open this up and answer any questions that you have. But Bay continued as well that theatre projectors are different now, the camera systems are different. Nothing is really standardised, which is why it does, feel like the Wild West. So, while Avatar, blew minds, broke box office records, it's fair to say that many of the 3D movies that followed James Cameron's, kind of experimenting immersive storytelling they've trafficked in this kind of cheesy tableau that kind of resembles pop-up books and, you know, gotcha scenes, these pop-out kind of 3D moments, rather than a subtle, often delicate, linear way of storytelling. So, you know, it's fair to say as well that Cameron and his ilk are very much 3D evangelists, as we are in some ways, but they regard the stereoscopic dimension very much as a sea change, you know, that will one day be taken for granted in the same way that sound and colour made black and white and silent films seem quaint. But maybe that initial novelty is also wearing off. You know, filmmakers do face a big question. Does depth of field really make a movie better? There's no easy answer to this. The success or failure of 3D from an artistic point of view depends largely on three variables: technology, time, and taste. I'm sure in terms of technology, you'll hear some part of that today, and maybe you're already sort of evolved and immersed in it already. But even in Hollywood, you know, competing technologies are evolving so quickly that, you know, what's kind of cutting edge now in spring, you know, by autumn, it'll, you know, can often be discarded. And we've very much found that a prime focus in our own technology, which are all proprietary tools. Like any VFX process, it evolves and develops, and it does develop at such a pace that the tools we used to create Clash of the Titans 12 months ago bear little resemblance to those we're using today on Star Wars. And this isn't driven by revenue-chasing Hollywood studios to, you know, to push the technology to make it, you know, faster and cheaper and, you know, get it out in the cinemas to make more money. It's driven by super talented, creative individuals who are pushing on a daily basis to make the tool sets better, faster, and ever more sophisticated. So ultimately, the quality of image that we see and we get to enjoy in the cinema is that much better. So when, coming back to Michael Bay and Transformers, when he shot Transformers Dark of the Moon just a few months ago, primarily using the Avatar 3D camera system, he did, you know, in his own words, he found the technology irritating. And I won't try and do his accent, but he said the rigs were a pain in the ass. They weren't built to go 70 miles an hour in a camera car. We put them through their paces, had the cameras doing things they were never intended to do, but I like to do my stunts live, whereas Avatar was mostly CG. So what we see here is, even on a native stereo shoot, the conversion studio is on hand to fill the gap where even the most sophisticated rigs can't cut it. On a live action or native stereo shoot, the studio still has within the budget a 20% contingency to allow for conversion, whereby, and that can you know, throw up, you know, in one or two different ways. It could be that what was locked and captured on the day, technical problems with one eye, leaving you with only one good eye. What do you do then? Do you go back and reshoot? Do you bring all the actors in? And for a film like, you know, Transformers, it's not, you know, reshoots, you know, are a killer. They're a killer to a budget. They're a killer to the show. So the technology is there to fix those, fix them in post, to convert them, and sort of cut those in quite comfortably with the original material. And we're seeing, you know, very much, certainly on a lot of the big shows as well, you know, hybrid shows, whereby there's an element which is, you know, it might be serve the show better to shoot these in stereo. There's always going to be a huge, and certainly like something on Transformers, a huge element of stereo CG, and then you've got conversion. So it's all the tool sets for the filmmaker, put them together to create their masterpieces. So native 3D, shooting with two cameras, obviously produces far superior 3D, right? Well, not necessarily. Chris Cookson, who's president of Sony Picture Technologies, he recently said, 2D to 3D conversion has the potential to far exceed what you can do with native capture because you have so much more control. Conversion is a creative tool that lets you have more control over the placement of the objects in the picture that actually plays better than the native 3D might have played, because you can slightly alter the relation of the objects beyond what the real world can do. So there's kind of, you know, there are those three levels of control when because 3D is an illusion anyway, but there's three levels of control in that. You've got your avatar, which is predominantly CG, so you have 100% control over the placement of every single object, every single piece of character, all the animation within a scene. You've got conversion, which the backbone is rotoscoping, so we would rotoscope every single element within a frame, generate depth maps from those, and we'll come back to this again, but ultimately we control, similar to CG, every element within a frame, and we choose their placement and decide their placement. And then you've got native capture, where the control all has to be on set. You're locked into predominantly whatever you achieve on the set. So in some respects, there's less control, because if we go into post, there's fixes to do, potentially. So that's kind of almost like a kind of a state of the union as to where we are now with 3D. But kind of looking back, how it all started. So the first motion picture to be fully converted was Disney's G-Force in 2009. Took over a year for In3 to deliver the conversion for the film, utilising, it was a very labour-intensive paint and roto process. The filmmakers had to commit to depth decisions very early in the execution process without having a clear perception of how shots would look once finished and presented in the logical edit, and it was way too expensive. Many companies around the world thought that if they have paint and roto skills and understand 3D conceptually, they could also start converting content. Various companies created different technologies and pipelines which could offer conversion of a few shots to 3D, but converting an entire feature film, the average feature film 2,000 shots, within a timeline with the multiple creative iterations demanded by the filmmakers required additional skills which were beyond these companies. Most of these were pure conversion companies who had no knowledge of film technology, post-production, and most importantly, the overall filmmaking process. So where did Prime come into this? Well, in the 3D space, Prime Focus first worked as a visual effects company on Journey to the Centre of the Earth 3D and then on Avatar 3D, both shot in stereo. Both films we generated full stereo CG, part CG, and conversion plates to support those films. So, but as discrepancies in the left and right eye deliveries started showing up during those projects, Prime Focus's R&D team developed a set of tools which could fix these issues. Part of the creative solution was that the process could generate a new left eye image or right eye image using the alternative eye. Prime Focus presented this technology to Warner Brothers and started working on tests for converting full 2D motion pictures to 3D. The tests were successful, which resulted in Warner Brothers commissioning Prime Focus to convert Clash of the Titans. Given the short turnaround time to hit the release date and the high levels of creative interaction required, Prime Focus created a timetable which allowed Academy Award-winning artists to work interactively with the filmmakers in Hollywood, supported by 7 of Prime Focus's facilities around the globe, to deliver the 3D version of Clash of the Titans in a record 11 weeks. Which, if you were to go to, on any big show, you would take that to a visual effects company and say, look, I've got 2,000 visual effects shots, very sophisticated, the edit's not going to be locked, we're going to be working this right up until the deadline. We say, well, how long have we got to do it? You've got 11 weeks. It would never happen. But we did achieve it. It was maybe critically panned, but we didn't kind of write the script, but it worked. So today at Prime Focus, we do find ourselves considered best in class, and we've come to the rescue of many films that started their 3D conversion in other studios as well. So as the market leader, Prime Focus has not only responded to calls from the studio, but is also completing major new projects. So on recent projects, last summer we converted the Chronicles of Narnia, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and which very much stands, and when I say today, obviously this is a few months old now, and in terms of what is yet to be released, we're very confident that it far surpasses what we achieved on that film. But Narnia stands today as the best stereo conversion film thus far. We did receive an award for the best live action 3D film at the recent International 3D Society Awards. On that particular film, the decision to go stereo was made after principal photography, but before VFX were completed. And this allowed a partial hybrid approach where just under 10% of the 1,900 shots were full CG stereo renders, the rest were converted by us. So, currently in the pipe again, try to imagine that in 3D, best you can. It's going to be amazing. But Star Wars Phantom Menace is currently in the pipe. And with this, it's, when you're stepping up a level to work alongside you know, the kind of the George Lucases, the ILMs. The technology's got to be perfect. The pipeline's got to be perfect. The production management, all that is entailed to deliver this many shots, you know, on time and to meet the demands of what is such a high-profile film. It's testament to the work we've done that we've actually achieved that. So, and I guess, you know, aside from the technology, the singular kind of most important, you know, sort of piece of the conversion jigsaw really is time. So, you know, 12 months ago we converted Clash of the Titans in 8 to 11 weeks. 12 months on, you know, we've been afforded 8 months to deliver on Phantom Menace. So, you know, you could ask, would Clash have been better had it had more time to work on it? Yes, it would. Was it compromised? Probably not. You know, coming back to Sony's head of technologies, Chris Cookson, you know, he said the bad rap that you sometimes get on film conversions from 2D to 3D shows that you can't just run something through a black box and have it come out 3D. You have to very carefully deconstruct the images, and that takes a significant investment of time and money, along with really skilled people doing very clever and very careful work. Then, coming down to a matter of taste, you know, well, it feels that there's two very kind of distinct kind of camps when it comes to what is my taste in 3D. You know, there's those at times we want the kind of the theme park kind of 3D, whether it's in our faces, it's in our laps, and it's a wonderful thing to be in a theatre full of people and you're seeing, you know, people kind of reaching out to grab something which isn't actually there. That's tremendous fun. It's hugely exciting, but could you watch a 100-minute film with that level of 3D, that level of depth? I think after a while it could become acutely painful and uncomfortable to watch. So there's a new kind of subtlety as well, where we're seeing the screen as a window into a world. Depth can be very natural, very subtle. But then also, coming back to depth as a tool for filmmakers, for characterization, how do you want to take your viewers out of the story, out of the picture with a 3D moment? It's probably great for Saw 7 or, you know, I don't know, what's that? What was the Drive Angry? But, you know, working with people like David Yates on the Harry Potters, that's a very, very different taste altogether as well. It's a very subtle, you know, elegant approach to creating this kind of imaginary world. So, you know, restraint might seem to be the antithesis to 3D's appeal, but, you know, filmmakers agree that, you know, nuance does matter. You know, Lucasfilm made it very clear to us that they did not want a gimmicky experience. And there's a lot of thinking behind Lucasfilm's craft as well. They wanted to present Phantom Menace, and they want to present Phantom Menace aesthetically in a way that maintains the basic language of this very defined space in the film. You know, there were subtle enhancements, or there are subtle enhancements to the original material, you know, that we are conducting, to the point where nobody really sees this as a dramatic change from the original film, because we are changing it somewhat. On something like Phantom Menace, we have to be pixel perfect. We're taking an original monoplate, generating 2 eyes. There is paint involved to extrude characters from the background. We are, you know, making subtle changes to it, but it, you know, it's sort of 95% true to the original. So, on one level, you know, it probably comes down to what is the right amount of 3D. At what point do audiences like it and do audiences not like it? In moments where you do action scenes with a lot of really quick cuts, for example, it's probably better to back off on the 3D. With so much depth in a fast scene, it's harder for the eye and the brain to really kind of engage with and understand what is acting, and that will essentially push you out of what could be a great story. Even Michael Bay, known for, you know, he's certainly known for his over-the-top spectacle, he's decided to go flat for a number of close-ups in which the human face conveys emotion more effectively without the distractions of 3D. You know, our brains are programmed to, you know, essentially detect lots of depth, you know, up to about 18 feet or so. But beyond that, it's something you perceive more kind of intellectually than viscerally. So, you know, this is what we try and convey on the screen. So rather than give, you know, a huge amount of natural depth to everything, we often pull back. So So what are the keys to good stereo creation? Strong working relationship with the overall VFX supervisors and VFX facilities. Necessary data elements can be shared. On a big show, something like Narnia, we're dealing with over 50,000 assets in terms of visual effects elements which are broken up and then recomped and re-put back together to deliver a great shot. So, that takes a lot of planning, a lot of pre-production planning, a lot of, careful production management, and it does take time as well. So, how do we do it? That's the key question, I guess. I mean, before we go into that, is any questions from anybody at all based on what we've talked about so far?
Faces.
Great, that's good.
Hello?
So obviously you've got
lots of blank faces. Smile. There we go.
So maybe Raj could join me here as well. So in very simple terms, this is an original plate. We take that original plate, that original frame. What this shows us is the tasking stage. This is where we rotoscope everything. So everything within that has been cut out and delivered to us to reassemble. From that, we create a depth mat. From that, a displacement map. And at this stage, at any point during this, we can alter the placing and the placement of any of those rotoscope characters within that. More depth, less depth, where do we want to converge, all can be done. We move that around within 3D space so our artists can see at all times where things are sitting and are situated. And this is a kind of real-time interactive process as well. So prior to rendering, we can make decisions here. On a VFX shot, an original plate, depth mat. No roto here, it's all fully CG, so all the various elements for this would be broken out, delivered to us, rain, water, smoke, fire, to be laid. And I'm kind of talking through it very quickly here, but that in itself, the skills of a compositor to visual effect, composite a shot, a very sophisticated visual effect shot like this, are highly skilled. But then from our guys to break that apart again and then recomp it all within 3D, that's a unique and advanced skill all in itself.
So displacement map, as Matt eloquently showed you, is basically just it's a view which we use to help both the stereographer from the client and our own artists place objects in terms of their relationship to each other. What we're not trying to do is recreate the scene realistically as if these were real objects in the real world. What we're trying to do is look at how much depth each object has. So you have to look at it in terms of its proportion. The rhyme we always give our junior compers is it's proportion, not distortion. Proportion, not distortion. So it's all about really saying, look, the foreground reptile that's hanging on that rock, maybe we want most of the depth in the scene to be on him. So we would look at how much depth we're giving that creature versus the other creature using a view like this. It's just an assist tool, really. It's a view to help you. I've got a question.
Is that automated or is that done totally manually? Is that an artistic decision or is it a semi-automatic?
It's a semi-automatic artistic decision. So basically, we generate a lot. We automate a lot of our processes, like most VFX houses. So we would receive depth maps, whether they be from CG or whether we've handcrafted one. And then we automate a render like this, or we automate a view like this, and then on top of that, we allow the artist or direct the artist how to further augment that depth map to change the depth budget in that scene. It might change over time, over the course of the sequence. It might change in that scene itself because of an artistic direction from the director. So it could be the director says, actually, you know what, most of the story is the lizard in the background, not the lizard in the foreground. And it plays better in my edit, because obviously editing in 3D is different to editing in 2D. It might work better in my edit that, you know, the convergence is at the back and the audience is looking there at the moment. I can't cut to another scene straight away where everything's at the front. I need it at the back still. So we have that flexibility with stereo creation, not conversion, creation, where we allow the director to place depth more or less where exactly he wants it.
And just on the back of that, it can't stress enough what a kind of an intuitive, iterative, creative process it is as well. All our shots are signed off by the director and by the director's creative team, whatever show it is. They're presented in a way that you present any visual effect shot for various stages. You present it as, you know, just started, near final, final, and at any time it's open to depth changes, any kind of creative changes that is required of it as well, and we respond to that immediately. So there really is no kind of, you know, plug it in, here's our film, make it 3D, give it back. It's, you know, depth is a decision that the creatives need to make in the same sense that colour timing is a decision that needs to be made. You know, kind of in editing, you know, the flow, the feel, the pace of a movie, it's a key part in all of that. And, you know, the process, the conversion, or the creation process certainly allows for that.
Any other questions? Another one from Joshua. Go on.
A while ago, JVC had a machine that did a lot of the processing.
The infamous JVC box, you mean?
Sorry, didn't mean to laugh.
Optical flow analysis tool.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
Did you believe it? Or have you had a look at it? Have you looked at the output?
I was just curious to see, because the optical flow is very powerful. I was curious to see if
It is.
that is
Absolutely.
as well as we sold it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about optical flow, obviously, is it's an old concept, isn't it? Fern has had optical flow tools in their toolset for years now. We've all been familiar with them, used them quite a lot. So we know the pitfalls of them. We know the drawbacks of them. What if you have a static scene? What are you going to do in terms of how do you figure out what this building going off into the horizon? It's not moving, so how do you know how much depth there is in it with an automated system like that? I mean, the thing about auto in general, auto-roto, auto-comping, auto-optical flowing, it doesn't work all the time very well. So the trouble is that you're back to massaging that material after you put it through an automatic system like that. So you've got all the same problems you have if you just started with the footage by yourself and started massaging it, but you've just now got the added step of putting it through this box and dealing with the material that comes out the other end. And I have to say, I think that the material that I saw come out of that box, and we've done extensive analysis on this, we think that's quite poor quality at the moment. I mean, it's the first one they've come out with, so there'll be newer versions, and they will improve. We think on the whole it's quite poor.
I think Sony have got one coming out pretty soon. I don't think it's official name, but I've heard it called the JVC Killer. So Sony have got high hopes for that. We'll wait and see. We'll have a look. But if there was a solution for putting a 100-minute big budget Hollywood film through an automated box, then great. We'll take it. We'll build the box and we'll do it. It's just not there. This is the process involved. This is what, in the same way that when creating whatever visual effects are required for a film, it's skilled artists working, long hours, long days to put the dollars on the screen.
Any other questions?
It can't be converted. It can't be automated. Yep.
I was just going to ask, what programs do you principally work within for, the rotoscope inside of it, and then obviously I assume that was Nuke, possibly, or something like that. So,
to be honest, it's one of the easiest questions to answer because we use all of them. There isn't a program out there that we haven't bought, instigated, trained, and are currently in use, because we've got, I don't know, how many is it now? 4, 5, 6 facilities, big ones, where we have loads of trained artists sitting there using the stuff. And in every locality around the world, LA, they're mainly sort of Fusion for comping. Here, it's mainly Nuke. In India, they kind of use both. For Roto, again, the artist pool that you've got to pick from in every geographic locality is completely different. So we've ended up with a pipeline which encompasses all of that, and we've made all the software work with each other. So for instance, with Roto, we use everything. We use After Effects, we use Silhouette, we use Nuke, we use Fusion. For comping, again, we use Nuke and Fusion mainly, but there'll be times where we use After Effects as well, because there are a lot of After Effects artists out there, kids in bedrooms, build little plugins and tools and do stuff, and then they come to work for us. And we give, ultimately, our philosophy is we don't tie everything down. It's not about the software. We don't tie everything down to one particular type of software. If you want to use this because you know you could do this fastest in that particular type of software, and we can accept that into our pipeline, we're not going to stop you. So we encourage, actually, that artists do use the things that they know best, and we build bridges between that software so that they can end up using other software. If they learn about that and they want to progress into another piece of software, we encourage that too. So that we really haven't got any limits in terms of software, and it's an absolute mammoth company. I used to work for other sort of big Soho companies, and when I came to Prime Focus, I didn't really understand just what a behemoth it is. And since coming here, I've actually started. Once you open the box and look inside, it's absolutely mind-blowing how much stuff is in use in all the different places and how this is all plugged together. It's amazing.
And it's liberating as well, though, because again, myself, I've worked at some of the major post facilities in London as well, and over time, pipelines become really kind of bloated, and because 10, 15 years ago, a lot of the tools weren't out there, so at the facilities, we created them, we invented them, and as technology changes, you build on that pipeline, so 10 years down the line, you've got this huge legacy of, kind of handcrafted, software writing, so if you want to change that pipeline, people, don't touch the pipe, you can't touch the pipe, and you've got to keep this pipe going. So it's liberating to not only be at a company which embraces all of it, but the kind of the products that we're putting out there doesn't require this legacy pipeline. We use whatever tools are required, off the shelf literally. So it's liberating for the artists and for us as a company as well, because we move things around globally. On a big show, Phantom Menace, kind of Harry Potter, it's not a team of artists in one location working on it. It's artists across all locations working on it. So we've got our facility in Los Angeles, 60 artists there doing shots, London, 60 artists doing shots, India, 450 artists working on shots. All being, you've got one creative front door for that, where the creatives are. So we deliver shots to those people to put in front of the creative. So all this data, all this information gets trafficked around the world on such a huge scale. And it works. But if you've got the kind of pipeline which doesn't allow for that, it falls apart completely. So it's great. It's liberating.
To be honest, we've never really understood that. We've never understood. I mean, we use Linux, PC, and Macs. In all of our buildings, we haven't got a single OS, frankly, and there's reasons for that. Because ultimately, it's the user, isn't it? The user's got to be catered for, and if they want to use Macs, and we can transport stuff around, this isn't the old days where they just don't understand each other. All of this sort of thing. I mean, we can run all of them, so we do. We don't really understand this idea that it has to be one thing or the other.
The film industry as well, it's led by the creatives. So the creatives, they come to say, we need this. How can you give that to me? And we can never be in a position where we sort of have to say, well, we can't do that. That's a different software. We don't really have that. So, okay, well, how do we do that?
Sorry, I don't know why people are just walking through our event. That's fantastic. Sorry about that. I thought they were going to streak or something.
So, you've got to be able to say, yes, how can we do it? So, again, being able to utilise all these different multi-formats allows us to ultimately deliver exactly what the client needs, because really that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And you never want to be in a situation where you say, can't do that, no, we haven't got software for that, no. Which is why we buy everything, because we're often needing something different for some other creative project.
I was just wondering, because you've got this sort of very open pipeline which encompasses various different platforms, and I know you've got your own sort of online-based asset management system, and I was just wondering what sort of number of software developers you needed to kind of keep all this infrastructure going and to create it.
What sort of software?
How many software developers that you have
actually
keeping this going?
Oh, right, yeah.
It's one, isn't it? We've got one. but he's on holiday today, so that's why we're here.
We've actually got teams of them in various parts. We've got like 15, 16 in Bangalore. We've got 6 in Vancouver. We've got 4 in LA, and we've got 2 here in London. That's the entire team size, and they're all busy on various sort of projects, making databases work with each other, making tools work, making our VPN between the 3 facilities work better. There's all sorts of stuff that they're currently always going on and doing, and we're always developing training resources and ways for us all to talk to each other, and we want to constantly develop like a 24/7 floor support, because obviously with the time zone difference, there's always a facility awake. That means that artists who are staying overnight, or like you're toiling away at the shop, if they need a floor supervisor to help them with a particular problem, they should be able to just go and get that supervisor wherever he is, right? My bleeper's gone off like a doctor. Oh, wow, we've got to go and help this artist out in Bangalore who can't understand how to do that. So that kind of support is what we're developing right now, and there's a lot to play for.
Also, what sort of pipes do your network infrastructure use? I mean, you must be using some fairly big internet pipes.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I mean, I'm not a systems architect or anything. My background is I was a senior compositor at other sort of VFX houses, and I came to Prime Focus as really out of curiosity, frankly. And then I don't actually lay pipe or plug computers together. Or I call an engineering guy to do that.
Are you on SohoNet?
I'm sorry?
Are you on SohoNet?
Yes, yeah.
So that goes to all the facilities, does it? Or
SohoNet.
Yeah.
So, any more questions? These guys? One more at the front? No? We'll go at the back. Guy in the lovely suit.
As an employer, what do you look for students who are trying to apply to get into Prime Focus?
Well, this is it's one of my kind of personal projects. The London operation for this, 12 months ago, actually it was 12 months ago yesterday that I started working for Prime Focus. There was a team of 4 of us, Raj was one of them. We were in some kind of temporary office, literally putting furniture together to kind of start thinking, well, how the hell are we going to do this? What do we need? We took some really bold decisions in terms of the projects we were taking on, which led us to needing to recruit a lot of people very quickly. And at the first sort of wave of recruiting, which was the first team we took on was roughly 45 artists, we thought we needed really experienced compositors. We had the tool set, we knew how it worked, but we thought we needed really skilled compositors to kind of to work that and put it together. And to a certain respect, we did. However, as a proprietary system, quite often with 10 years experience compositing, there's stuff you need to unlearn to kind of get into and understand how this works in 3D. So what we saw after the first 6 months was guys from, I don't know if you're familiar with Escape and the Escape training course. We've taken a lot of guys from the Escape compositing training course with little or no facility experience, training course experience, maybe 1 or 2 jobs, but coming to it with a really open, fresh attitude. These guys have kind of flown with it as well. They understand the technology, they work with it very quickly, and they've really excelled, and they've become team leads, senior artists in just 12 months. So I've recruited sort of many artists since then as well. And I think now when I go into an interview and I'm meeting people who potentially could join the company, yes, technical skills are important, and an understanding of compositing is important, but equally, just as important, if in some cases not more, is that desire and ambition and determination to be part of the visual effects community and do whatever it takes to make that work. Because if somebody's got that heart and desire, and I don't want it to sound like a cliche, but it's true, they can really go far. And there's a number of artists on our books who've just blown us away with the skill set that they have now. When we look at maybe a year ago or 6 months ago, some of them are a bit of a, you're taking a punt on these guys. You're thinking, well, you've got no experience. You've got a real desire and passion. You've got some understanding. Is this going to work out? And a number of these have just thrived and run with it. And what's really important now, and for visual effects in London, it's important to kind of training facilities as well, is that 5-10 years ago, when we were starting this business, a lot of the entry-level positions were roto and prep. Now, as the London industry and the visual effects community has grown and has become much more global. These big roto sort of powerhouses aren't in London anymore. There isn't, you know, a lot of facilities aren't doing roto in their facilities. It's been done in India or in Eastern Europe or in other countries where, you know, because it is the grunt work of a show. It's a lot cheaper now. We're lucky we are an Indian company, Prime Focus, so we don't outsource for roto. It's all done within our own team of people. So for young people trying to break into the industry, it's got a lot harder. But with our proprietary system, we call it ViewD, but with stereo conversion, we've almost by accident created this new entry-level position. So artists will come to us, we train them within 6 to 12 months, they're highly skilled stereo conversion artists. But equally, as we are also a visual effects facility working on CG movies as well, stereo conversion also becomes a stepping stone into junior and mid compositing roles as well. So joining, you know, Prime Focus as a young stereo compositor, within 12 months, you're, you know, junior compositor on Judge Dredd, X-Men, things like that. So it's really been really healthy and vital to us, but also to the London community as well. So that's what we look for, just ambition, desire, and
Thank you.
determination.
So he's obviously wearing a suit because I think he wants an interview later on, Matt. I hope you're available for interviews later on. Are there any more questions? Or is that it? Any more questions? No, cool. So thanks very much, Matt and Raj.
Thank you.
That's brilliant. It's a round of applause for Matt and Raj.